Nobody is coming. Say it to yourself right now, out loud if you have to. Nobody is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your friends, not a boss who finally notices you, not a partner who completes you, not some future version of luck that shows up and rearranges your life for you. You have been waiting for a rescue that was never scheduled to arrive, and every single day you keep waiting is a day you're handing over to someone else. Today, that waiting ends. Today, we talk about the one truth that nobody wants to say out loud anymore in a world obsessed with support systems and group chats and comfort. Some things, the things that actually matter, you have to do completely alone. It's on you, not on your circumstances, not on your childhood, not on the people who never believed in you. On you. And I'm going to prove it to you with 6 stories of people who had every excuse in the world to sit down and wait, and instead stood up in total silence and built something the whole world eventually had to notice. Picture a 17-year-old boy walking into a high school gym in North Carolina to check a list taped to the wall. He runs his finger down the names, looking for his own. It isn't there. Cut. Not benched, cut completely from the varsity basketball team, told flat out by a coach that he wasn't good enough and might never be. Most people already know how this story ends, because that kid was Michael Jordan, the man who would become the greatest basketball player who ever lived. But almost nobody talks about the part in between the cut and the comeback, and that part is everything. Jordan didn't go home and complain to his friends about how unfair the coach was. He didn't wait for an apology. He set his alarm and started showing up to an empty gym before the sun came up, alone, shooting free throws until his arms shook, with nobody watching, nobody clapping, nobody there to tell him he was doing the right thing. That's the piece that gets cut out of every highlight reel. The 4 a.m. silence that made the highlight reel possible in the first place. Jordan understood something at 17 that most people never figure out in an entire lifetime. Getting humiliated is either the end of your story, or it's the raw fuel for the next chapter. And which one it becomes depends completely on what you do the next morning when nobody is checking on you. He didn't need a teen to tell him he belonged. He built it himself, rep by rep, until the results were too loud to argue with.
Now go to a small town in Austria in the 1960s. A teenage boy is obsessed with something his own father thinks is embarrassing: lifting weights, building his body into something nobody in his working-class town has ever seen. There's no internet, no YouTube, no community of people who understand what he's chasing. His father wants him to join the police force, like the men before him. Nobody around him believes bodybuilding leads anywhere except disappointment. So he trains alone. He actually breaks into the local gym on days it's supposed to be locked because he refuses to lose a single day of progress. He has a vision in his head that literally no one else can see yet. America, film, a life 10 times the size of the one available to him at home.
If they said his accent was a problem, he made it his signature instead of hiding it. If they said his body didn't fit any role, he waited for the one role that would need exactly that body and no other. Nobody gave Arnold Schwarzenegger permission to become a movie star. He refused to treat no as permanent. He kept training alone, kept walking into rooms that rejected him, kept absorbing hit after hit until the entire industry had no choice left but to catch up to what he already knew about himself.
Let's go somewhere raw, because I don't want you thinking this is only for people with rare gifts or unusual bodies.
New York City, 1975. A struggling actor has $90 left to his name. He's about to be evicted. He already had to sell his own dog because he couldn't afford to feed him. Sit with that for a second, because that detail alone tells you exactly how low this man had fallen. Casting agents kept rejecting him partly because of facial paralysis from a difficult birth that affected the way he spoke and moved, and they used it against him without hesitation. Then one night he watches a boxing match on television, and something ignites in him. In 3.5 days, he writes an entire screenplay in a burst of pure obsession. He believes in it so much that when producers finally offer him real money for the script, real money, life-changing money for a man with $90 and no dog, on the condition that a bigger star plays the lead, he says no. Broke, about to be homeless, and he turns down the money because he refuses to let someone else live out the one story that was actually his. He carries that script from meeting to meeting, alone, absorbing rejection after rejection, the kind of rejection that ends most people permanently. That man is Sylvester Stallone, and the film is Rocky, which went on to win Best Picture and build one of the biggest franchises in movie history. Here's what almost nobody says about that story. Stallone wasn't betting on a fictional boxer named Rocky. He was betting on himself, completely alone, with no one around him who could validate that bet in advance. Everyone who liked the script still thought he was insane to gamble his one shot at real money for his one shot at meaning. He made that decision by himself, in a room where nobody could talk him out of it, because that's exactly what the decisions that actually change your life require. Total isolation from the noise of other people's fear.
Now let's bring this to a life that looks a lot more like yours. A 26-year-old, we'll call him Marcus because his story plays out in cities across this country every single week, gets laid off on a video call that lasts 4 minutes. No warning, just a restructuring email that lands 40 minutes later, confirming what he already suspected the second the meeting started. He'd built his whole identity around that job title for 3 years. He posts about it and gets 40 supportive comments and a wave of heart emojis. And by the third day, the group chat has already moved on to weekend plans, and the algorithm has already buried his post under 100 newer ones. And Marcus is sitting alone in his apartment at 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday with a laptop, a resume that suddenly feels useless, and a very specific kind of dread crawling up his chest. This is the exact moment that decides the next 5 years of his life. And nobody around him will ever know it happened, because it's happening completely inside his own head with 0 witnesses. He's got 2 roads in front of him. Road 1, refresh job boards half-heartedly, wait for a friend's connection to magically appear, tell himself the market is broken, which might even be true and is also completely useless as a plan. Road 2, sit down, alone, with no audience and no applause coming, and rebuild the exact skills the market is actually paying for right now, one unglamorous hour at a time, with no guarantee any of it works. Both roads are lonely. The difference is what he does with that loneliness. One version of alone rots into resentment and calls itself patience. The other version of alone becomes fuel. That fork shows up in your life every single day, hidden inside 100 small decisions. Do you scroll tonight or finish the course? Complain in the group chat or send 5 more applications? Wait for the system to fix itself or become the kind of person that system can't afford to ignore? Every one of those decisions gets made in total privacy, at night, when no one would ever know either way, which is exactly why those decisions are the only ones that actually tell you who you are.
Here's the part almost nobody warns you about. And if I skip it, you'll quit right at the exact moment you were about to break through. When you start doing the hard, lonely thing, the workouts, the studying, the applications, the writing, the practicing, your results, for a painfully long stretch, will not match your effort. You'll put in real work, and the world will hand you back almost nothing. No promotion, no visible change, no callback, no client. This is the stretch where almost everyone quits. And it's not because they don't have what it takes. It's because we're wired to expect the world to answer us back quickly. And when it doesn't, our brain reads the silence as proof it's not working. But look back at every single story I just told you. Jordan in the empty gym with no proof yet that any of it would matter. Schwarzenegger breaking into a locked-up gym for reps nobody asked him to do. Stallone getting told no meeting after meeting with a dog he'd already had to give up. Marcus sending applications into what feels like a void. Oprah building a style nobody at the network believed in yet. Every single one of them spent real time in that dead zone, alone, with 0 proof it was working. The difference between the ones who make it through and the ones who don't isn't how deep that dead zone is. It's whether they decided ahead of time to keep walking through it without demanding proof first. because the proof, by its very nature, only shows up on the other side.
One more story. And this is the one I want ringing in your head longest. Because it's not about a famous name or a movie made about someone's life. A woman named Elena, and this reflects a pattern you'll find in almost any city in America if you look close enough, finds herself a single mother at 31 after a relationship ends without warning, with a toddler, a part-time retail job, and family 5 states away who couldn't help even if they wanted to. No villain in this story, no dramatic rescue either, just the flat, grinding weight of being the only adult responsible for another human being's entire existence, with a bank account where every surprise expense turns into a small emergency. There's no team here to get cut from, because there was never a team to begin with. Just her, alone, at 5 in the morning, studying for a certification on her phone during a bus ride, because that's the only stretch of unclaimed time she has all day, her daughter asleep in a stroller beside her. Nobody saw that studying. Nobody clapped for it. There was no post about the grind because there was no energy left over to perform it for anyone. 18 months later, she has the certification, then a better job, then a better one after that. When people finally asked her how she pulled it off, what she said says more than anything I could tell you myself. She stopped waiting to feel ready, and stopped waiting for her circumstances to get easier before she started, because she realized the easier circumstances were never actually coming. She did the work with what she had, not with what she wished she had, because the thing she wished for was never showing up, and every month she'd have spent waiting for it was a month she'd never get back. 6 stories. 6 completely different decades, backgrounds, and starting points. And underneath every single one, the exact same fire. A person hits a wall, a locked-out roster spot, a mocked accent, a dog sold to make rent, a layoff email, a childhood nobody would choose, a bus commute with a sleeping child on their lap. Nobody arrives to move that wall for them. And instead of sitting down and waiting for a rescue, every one of them turned toward the wall alone and started tearing it down brick by brick, in silence, with no guarantee, no audience, and often no evidence for a long time that any of it was actually working. That's the entire secret. It was never really a secret. It's just deeply unpopular, because it takes away every excuse you've been quietly leaning on.